The 10K self. So if you are on the journey like me to your first 10K a month, then you kind of know what I'm talking about here. There's a different version of all of us that exists, is what I've come to realize. And the 10K self for me has been a journey of overcoming and learning lessons that the universe wants me to learn, they want you to learn. And when you start looking at the becoming self as lessons and being on a journey to overcome these lessons and realize these lessons, life starts to get interesting. It's cool because you can look at life as the lessons that help you level up. You know, I had somebody say this to me recently. Anytime you have a loss, you gain a lesson. You know, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that you're doing in life. There's a lot of things I'm doing in life where maybe you're not fully winning, you know, but there is a lesson that's trying to be bestowed upon you. There's a lesson in there. And once you learn that lesson, you're going to be able to level up. And I think that's kind of the idea when you get to the point of becoming the 10K version of yourself, because you haven't yet learned the lesson. You know, I was having a whole chat with Sam earlier today about this, and it kind of got a little deep. The essence of it was really just saying, you know, lessons are there for the taking, and life is going to keep trying to teach you lessons until you learn them. And if you refuse to learn them, or you go against what the universe or whatever you believe in is trying to teach you, then you're never going to level up. So I was forming a new philosophy on this because I am a very historical person. Like, I like to look backwards so I can see further forward. And one of the things that I do or have been doing is collecting a photo video log of pretty much my whole life since 2015. It goes way further back to that, to my childhood and whatnot, but I haven't gotten all that digital media transferred over yet. But what I'm saying this for is because we were looking kind of further back to 2015, 2016, 17, 18, and what those years entailed. You know, what lessons did I overcome those years, and who did that make me into the person that I was being in the early 20s? And I was able to reflect on it, and I saw how when I decided that I learned those lessons, because learning any lesson is really just simply a decision. Once you learn those lessons, you make a decision not to tolerate a low enough standard. Hence, you know, being like somebody who doesn't make 10K, for example. Like, making 10K is just a decision to had learned the lessons required to being the person that is living in accordance to the person that has learned the lessons to be living as the 10K version of yourself, if that makes any coherent sense. Because that's the way I'm starting to see it, is the chapters of life come with lessons. If you want to get to the next chapter of your life, then you need to decide that you've learned the lesson. If you act out of accordance to the lesson that you claim that you have learned, then you will never get to the next chapter. So, and then life will go in a loop of trying to teach you the same lesson over and over and over until you can finally level up. It took me, I was looking back historically, it took me about 3 to 5 years really to ingrain myself in the lessons I was dealing with. One of them being was just, you know, my dating life and my athleticism and like what I wanted to do. I wanted to play college football. And that got me to a point where, you know, I had exactly, you know, the relationship that I wanted, the, you know, the sports background that I wanted. I was playing college football and everything was great there. But it went through 3 to 5 years of all these things all these lessons I had to learn in order to have that, right? That's what I wanted when I was like 14, 15, 16. And then when I was 20, 21, 22, what I really wanted at that time was to get out of the low points, you know, because I went through an identity loss of being a football athlete, and I got down so bad I had to find some sort of strength and courage to pull myself out of that situation. And that wasn't recently learned. Those lessons weren't really actualized until earlier at, well, tail end of 2025, because that's really when I mustered up the strength and courage to finally do something with my life and take it into a direction that I saw fit. And that was when I decided I learned the lesson that the universe was trying to teach me. Now, 2026 and beyond, I became aware that the lessons that universe are trying to teach me now is solely focused around being comfortable with being uncomfortable and doing things that are uncomfortable so I can grow and get out of the financial situation that I'm in, which is that 10K a month self. So it's kind of full circle, right? If you kind of look at like your life's chapters as lessons, and every time that you decide that you learn a lesson, you move up in the chapter. So that's kind of my thinking towards the 10K self, because it's really just a sequence of lessons that once you learn, you're starting to act and believe and almost kind of behave in a way in accordance to that 10K self. Just like how I went from not really being able to hold a relationship or, be the athlete that I wanted to be being a college athlete and having a successful relationship. But then life is going to throw you another challenge, and that challenge really is just a compartment of lessons that it's waiting for you to learn. So hopefully this was a little insightful. It kind of got deep and threw me a little bit for a loop today. If you have the opportunity and the luxury to look back to see further forward, I definitely recommend doing so if you have, photos and videos of you years and years ago, because you can really just get deep analysis of your old life and the lessons that you could see the universe was trying to teach you, and then you can look back and laugh and then just say, hey, yeah, this is where I was at, this is what I wanted, this is what I was going through, this is what I realized my old self was, and now that I'm in this position now, hopefully you learn the lesson. Hopefully you're not like 25, 30, 35 years old still dealing with what you were dealing with when you were like 13, 14, 15. If you are that type of person, then you got to really have a hard look at, changing your approach, changing your strategy, because that's really all it is just a series of iteration. You just got to keep trying things over and over and over until you get what you want. And then once you realize what works, that's really when you learn the lesson. And then once you learn the lesson, you have to reinforce it. And I think a lot of it comes with time. So, you just have to have the patience for yourself, patience for the process, and just giving yourself that room to live your life, because none of this is going to just happen over a 10-minute video on YouTube with me telling you this stuff. I'm talking about like 20-year time frames here. This is a lot to kind of condense in a little video, but I thought it would be valuable for somebody that is dealing with trying to get to the next level in what the 10K self really represents. In my worldview, it really is just making decisions to say that you've learned the lesson and then applying that lesson every day to being the person that you want to become. So, all right, guys, that's it. We will see you tomorrow with some big news tomorrow.